I'm an engineer, not a businessman. So everything I do is investment in stuff that is, 100 times better than anything else in the market. I've been educated that way, to always think out of the box, always challenge whatever is the norm and try to see if there's another way. I think schools are totally broken. They need to be completely reinvented, and it will happen super fast. World Economic Forum says the largest company in the next 10 years will be an education company, and I really believe that. So I think it's going to be 180 degrees different. People cannot imagine that whatever we discovered in medicine in the last 100 years, we're going to discover more and change more in the next 10 years. And that's absolutely impossible for, I would say, 90% of the human race to imagine that. And it's very, very difficult, even for me, to imagine that. I have to work on it every day to, open my thinking and imagine how it's going to look like in 10 years, or how fast autonomous cars are going to take over cities, and autonomous drones are overtaking deliveries and stuff like this. Well, if there's one thing I could ask for, is really, let's make Switzerland the crypto capital of the world.
You've just heard some of the amazing things we talked about in this episode of the Sparkr Podcast, featuring the very successful business angel Daniel Gutenberg, who's been investing in numerous unicorns very early on. We talked about his investing process, way of thinking, and his views about the future. My name is Christian Lundsgaard. This is the Sparkr Podcast. And as always, please enjoy this exciting conversation with Daniel Gutenberg. Daniel, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to talking to you. And today we're going to talk about how you approach risk or uncertainty as a business angel, but also how you think about the future regarding what kind of skills or mindsets are especially qualified to make people future-proof, so to speak. So I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts. But before we jump right in, I know from other meetings we talked before, I know that you have a very exciting, let's say, origin story, how you became a business angel. You were an entrepreneur, you then became a business angel. What were like the important steps that made you become a business angel?
So, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a privilege. I started as an entrepreneur. I had several companies, and my most important company that started in 91 was importing goods from different countries. And one of the best sellers was a portable hard disk that I was importing from the US and selling in Switzerland to mainly dealers and distributors. That was quite a long time ago. People wanted to upgrade to Windows 3.0. They needed more space, and I had this hard disk that you could connect to the printer ports. So it was a great business. I started to order more and more of those hard disks from my US connection, started to print leaflets and to build up a support team and to spend quite some money into the marketing. And everything was doing great when one day my connection said that he couldn't deliver to me anymore because he was bankrupt. And I was really, really surprised because numbers were so good on our side. And in my head, I thought I was doing 1 or 2 or 3% of his worldwide turnover. And I really thought I was totally insignificant to him. So the next day I took an airplane, flew to the States, met the guy, and then he told me, Daniel, you were doing like 80-90% of my turnover, just wasn't sustainable for my factory. I need a lot more turnover. So I realized I didn't know nothing about either the guy or the company, and I realized that I made a big mistake. So I swore to myself that whatever company I'm going to partner with, I'm going to buy at least one share, so I get at the end of the year, I get the numbers of the report of the company. And so I bought a share or two shares, few shares of the next three companies I was dealing with, and this was Netscape, Intershop, and NetScreen, and they all became multi-billion-dollar companies. But first and foremost, I became the distributor, doing good business with them, and did the same with many other companies that I was distributing in Switzerland, and then later I opened offices in several other countries in Europe. And I ended up selling the company in the year 2000. And I know we're going to talk about luck later. The year in the beginning of 2000, where the markets were still good, just before the big crash, I sold my company to a Belgium public company, and worked as a CEO for this company for a while. But then when I left, all I had left was a few shares of a few startups that suddenly became, in most cases, very valuable. So that's when I decided to go into the business angel business. Actually, first I even became a venture capitalist, working for a Swiss fund that invests only in Swiss startups, and at the same time became a global business angel, because I learned how to manage, or how to become a successful business angel in those years where I had all those dealers dealing with all those startups, because you have to imagine all my customers, because I sold to them Netscape. Everybody that needed Netscape as a dealer was a startup at that time. Those are all the guys that went for the gold, like the gold diggers in last centuries. Those guys were going for the internet gold, and I was delivering the shovels to them as a distributor of Alta Vista, Netscape, Oracle, and all those tools that you needed, the firewalls and all the tools that you needed for this internet gold rush.
You were like a facilitator for this gold rush to happen, when I understand correctly. It sounds like you delivered all the goods that they needed.
Exactly. It was pretty much a one-stop shop for all the tools that you needed to become an internet entrepreneur.
And did that happen by coincidence, or was this kind of a master plan that you had in mind to put yourself in that position?
No, there was no such thing as a master plan. I was at the right place at the right time. I read an article in a paper about Netscape, and I wrote them a letter, and I said, "Hey, I would like to be your distributor in Europe." And they were such a small company at the time. They said, "Yeah, sure. I mean, why not? We can use a few more sales." And within no time, this became a big deal. Everybody wanted to have some Netscape licenses. They were for free at the time, but if you used it commercially, then you needed to pay for it. So it was kind of a license to print money. So people would call me up and say, "We already use Netscape, but to be legal, we need to pay for it." Mm-hmm. So I would send them a bill, which was great. But then on top of that, it even became better, because then when the new companies came around, like Intershop and Alta Vista and all those new, bigger startups, the first thing they would do for distribution is look up who is the Netscape distributor. Yeah. And then they will call me and say, "Don't you want to also distribute Alta Vista and all these other companies. And in many cases, we said, yes, why not? I mean, I did my choice there. But so because of this Netscape deal, all the others followed.
That's what I love about this story. There's many great aspects to it, but what I love about it is that you informed yourself, you believed to see an opportunity, you took action, and then this whole success story evolved around this first initial rather small action of writing a letter to a small company overseas. That's I like that a lot, and it also already told that luck or coincidence plays a large role in your undertakings. And recently, when we talked about what is going on, what you're up to, you mentioned the startup Mobileye, which became pretty famous in the last couple of months because Intel bought them for a significant amount. Can you tell us how this connection, this deal came about, that you get to know Mobileye?
So yes, this was a total coincidence. My brother went with his mobile home to a trip to Greece. So he drove down to Italy from Switzerland and embarked on a ferry boat to Greece and with his mobile home. And the next mobile home over was the two founders of Mobileye. And that was 17 years ago. So I was in the year 2000. I just sold my company. So I just started to become more serious about being a business angel. And nobody even remotely was thinking about autonomous driving cars. But those guys were, and they had the technology. They could map 3D information out of 2D images. So you could take a picture or actually a film and then with some algorithms that they had developed, make 3D information out of that. So he was impressed, and he told them that he has a brother that invests in startups. They decided to come and visit me in Zurich. And the Amnon, the professor, explained to me in some very easy terms that it's no problem to drive even with one eye, and that everybody is developing in a wrong or too costly way their stuff. So what everybody else in the market was thinking is to know the distance from the next car. To be sure of the distance, you need a laser or you need a radar, or maybe you need even both, or you need two cameras to do the 3D information.
That's how all the Google cars look like. They have all these lasers.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
Exactly. So they have LiDAR and everything, and they have $70,000 worth of electronics to make sure that they can see the road exactly. And that doesn't make sense because nobody's going to buy a car where already the electronics cost $70,000. And then even if you go into mass production, it only costs half. Nobody's going to buy a car which has electronics for $35,000. And I really think everybody made a big mistake, a thinking mistake. And Amnon said, it's no problem at all. We have one camera. We have algorithms. We take everything out of the picture. Give me some money, I'll make you a $1 billion company within 3 years. And within 3 years, we'll have that in the cars, not for fully autonomous driving cars, but at least, to keep the distance between the car in front of you. And if there is an accident or something like this, we can do automatic braking and stuff like this, keep your car in the lane. And so I told him, well, it's never going to happen, but I'm very happy if it's a $300 million company. And so I invested. And what we didn't know is the technology at that time was too complicated for the processors. And we were hoping that the processors 3 years down the road will be fast enough so we can do real-time driving, calculating, measuring the distances. And it didn't happen. It took like 7 years until the first processors that actually Intel made only for us were fast enough to do these calculations. So it took much, much, much longer than we thought. But at the end of the day, we were the only ones going in this direction, and we could sell a product for around about $100 to the car manufacturers, which you can never, ever achieve if you have 2 cameras, because you have to, talk to both cameras or to a radar or LiDAR and all the processor capabilities that you need to synchronize all the information. Makes it so much more expensive than what we do with just 1 camera. So still today we have, much more than 80% world market share.
That's amazing.
For this kind of installation.
There's so many interesting aspects in that story. I think it's one is like there are these guys with a vision, and there's so many assumptions involved with it or uncertainty involved with it if they actually succeed. But if they succeed, it's going to be a huge deal. And I believe to remember that you once said that this is kind of your approach to look at business opportunities, to look if it sounds almost impossible, that's kind of fine with you, as long as in the end the benefits are huge. Is that
that's exactly
correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't. I'm not I'm an engineer, not a businessman, so I'm not good at calculating percentages and margins and stuff like this. So everything I do is investment in stuff that is 100 times better than anything else in the market. So I have no risk at all. When we have the product that we want to have, and you're 100 times better than everybody else, there's no risk. Everybody's going to want it. Everybody's going to buy it. And I won't have to calculate any margins. The only risk is that we never succeed. That the processors never get fast enough that you can actually real time use, the camera stream to drive around and stuff like this. So then, of course, you lose it. Usually, unless you can use it for some other applications, then you would lose all your investment. So that's the risk I'm ready to take, but I'm not ready to do that if there is going to be competitors that can lower the price, that already own the market or politically can do something about it. And that's one thing that Peter Thiel in his book 0 to 1 explains very nice. You actually, as a venture capitalist, you always want to be invested in a company where there's no competitors.
Yeah, because competition is for losers. I think that's one of his sentences, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I never knew that, but I think like this too, since I read his book.
Yeah. So you're a contrarian, basically, as Peter Thiel likes to call himself.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been educated that way, to always think out of the box, always challenge whatever is the norm, and try to see if there's another way.
And who has educated you that way? Was it traditional education, or was it a mentor, or just a figure that you looked up to? How did that come about?
I don't know. I guess that's my character.
Okay.
Probably grew up with it, or I don't know. It's quite a normal way of thinking in where I grew up. Yeah.
Okay. And so you already with the story of Mobileye and Netscape and everything. I guess it's sure to say that luck and coincidence plays a huge role in the way you do business, meeting the right people or being at the right place at the right time and everything. Would you agree with that, or do you have another take on it?
Well, there's two things. I think I always say, like Tiger Woods says, the more I train, the luckier I get.
Yeah.
So I do train a lot. And one example of that is I would always, before the internet, I would always go to Comdex and to CeBIT, the two largest electronics conferences. And I would not only go there and just stroll around to find some companies by luck. I would like prepare for days in advance and look at all the plans of all the halls, and then go and visit, and then have a list of companies that I want to see. But also I would walk through every single booth that there is in the whole exhibition, and those are huge exhibitions. Yeah. So I would really walk through fast. And my credo always was, if I don't understand it within 30 seconds what they sell, I'm not interested anyway, because it's going to be very hard. So that's one thing. So where I think, I try to have a huge deal flow also now as a venture capitalist, and I look at every single business plan, and there are about 500 every year that I look at personally before I make my decision for my 5 investments that I do every year. And the other thing is, I'm just a positive thinking guy. So when I, drive into town, people would sometimes say, it's going to be impossible to find a parking spot. I always say the opposite. I'm sure I'll find a parking spot just in front of the door. and I really think that this kind of thinking can help you.
Absolutely.
And I'm born that way. I always think the glass is half full instead of half empty.
You look for opportunities instead of issues that could stand in the way.
Absolutely.
We have a little phone call incoming, so we are just going to wait that out, I would say.
Yeah,
here we go. Positive thinking. It helped already. But you already mentioned now that that has been a point that I wanted to go towards to, which is you get hundreds of business proposals every year. You said 500, and you have to break it down to 5 that you will invest in. And you already said that it's important to you that the message of the companies has to be very clear and very simple, easy to understand. What other aspects, in addition to that, are part of your selection process? Has there been in quote unquote, a winning formula, how you break down all these proposals to the best ones?
Yeah. So the first thing I do is I really encourage anybody and everybody to send me their ideas, because you never know from which corner and in what field the next Mobileye is coming. So I really try to have a maximum inflow. But then also, of course, I'm trying to be extremely fast in kicking out stuff that doesn't interest me. Mm-hmm. So
how do you manage that? What are the killing points that you say, when I see this, they're out?
It's like there must be at least 30 factors that play a role in the first 10 seconds that I look at a business plan. So it will be too long of a list to mention here. But what I can say is that, many business plans already fall out because if they have already in the introductory letter, in the introductory email already is full of grammatical errors. That happens sometimes. So that's within less than 3 seconds I can say, okay, I'm not interested. If for such an important matter the startup is not trying to be maximum to make the maximum good impression exactly. And then the second thing is also the way they that's a very easy thing. If people write me great achievement, we have incorporated the company and the incorporation number is this and that. Mm-hmm. Then I realize, okay, if that's already a great achievement, I don't think they will be able to make a unicorn or $1 billion company, because that's such a small achievement in comparison to everything else that you need to do.
And it also that's my interpretation, it kind of hints to that those people are more about having a company and being a CEO instead of actually tackling an issue?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you have to, there's, like I said, there's like 30 parameters, and I try to be extremely quick. If one of them triggers, it's like a veto. If there's one single veto, it's already out. There's no need to go any further. Because if you want to, and I'm trying to specialize really on unicorns, if you want to build a unicorn, then all the stars have to be lined up in the right position, not just a few.
And it appears to me that you have found quite a good process, because please just mention some of the unicorns that you've been part of. Yes, you have a great radar.
So I got very lucky. I made 5 investments per year for 20 years. So I made a bit over 100 investments, and I'm pretty sure I already have 10 unicorns in my portfolio. Actually 11. One of them is not public yet. And I think by the end of the year, it's going to be 12, because both of those are going to be public.
That's amazing.
So,
and let's switch from the not to-do list, so to speak. Just now we talked about what you don't want to see. And what is it that you do want to see? Maybe before, do you look at the business or the founder, the vision, or all of it? And what do you want to see in those categories?
Okay. So I always look at the founders. That's 70% of the deal. I want to see founders with sparkly eyes, that have a vision, that have a passion, that want to make the world a better place. And that have one single point in the world that they want to fix. Yeah. And this is what triggers me. And only then, after that, I'll check if this idea makes any sense at all or not. But the first trigger is always to see the passion and somebody that wants to make the world better.
And combined with a extraordinary focus on one issue that they want to solve.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because just wanting to make the world better, there's so many things you can fix, from picking up a piece of paper on the road to trying to fix the CO2 problem or the climate problem. Yeah. So, but then you'll never finish. I mean,
And on the business aspect, what kind of categories are you mostly interested in? Hot topics are artificial intelligence, etc. Is that something that you look at, or do you have other?
So in general, there is no limitations on topics. I'm pretty topic agnostic in theory. In practice, there is topics I know better. There is, I know, technology, I know internet, I know everything that has to do with engineering. So it makes it easier for me to judge. Payments is one of them. But the second thing is that I would say I like to have the winds pushing you. So that means if there is certain subjects that are hot, and you just mentioned artificial intelligence, or a few years ago it was green tech or fintech or whatever those buzzwords are. It makes life easier. It makes it easier to find partners. It makes it easier to find employees. Everything is easier if you're operating in a field where usually newspapers are pushing the hype up. Yeah. And then I'm not, I can't change the wind. So I'm also then trying to operate in those fields.
Just on a little side note, if I remember correctly, there's been a couple of years in your life where you've been a surfing teacher in Hawaii. Is that right?
I was a windsurfing instructor in Hawaii before I started my business career.
Yeah, and something that I find interesting, I always love to think in metaphors. Would you say there are parallels between surfing and investing? I come to that point because you said it's somehow riding the right wave. Would you say there are parallels?
Well, like I said, yeah, you catch a wave, you ride a wave, and you are. If you catch the right wave, it will take you much further along than if you don't. But on the other hand, I don't. Very often, I think those are totally. I can't really understand when people suddenly talk all about fintech. I mean, I've been, investing in payment systems 10 years before fintech became a term, and I never really realized what fintech is. So for me, it just shows me, okay, that's an additional factor that makes it easier for the company, but it's not a big factor. I think it's a small factor.
And metaphorically speaking, I would say that means as an investor, you can't just stand at the beach and look out to the sea and look for a wave. You have to be in the water and keep pedaling, try out many waves, and then suddenly you will be prepared when the right wave comes.
Absolutely. That's a very nice metaphor. I might use that.
Nice.
No, absolutely. I think my biggest secret really is that I'm looking at the waves all the time, meaning that I read, 2, 3, 4 hours a day, blogs and PR and Facebook and Twitter and other feeds to know a little bit what is the, so to say, what is the normal height of the waves so that when a big one comes, I can catch it exactly.
Okay. And now that you've brought it up, you read a lot. You inform yourself very deeply, daily. It's actually a core part of your business. And that's why I would like to tap into that knowledge and that wisdom in what to read, what to listen to, look at. What do you just start with nowadays? What do you like reading and why?
So usually my day starts by reading emails, business plans, and then I go into business plans and in those business plans, they try to explain me some kind of environment. And then I go into what is that environment about? What are the competitors doing? So I branch off, if you want, out of business plans. That's one thing. The other thing is I religiously read some blogs like TechCrunch and Kurzweil, Diamandis, a few of those guys. I also curate my Facebook feed and really try to have the opinion leaders and the pre-thinkers in this feed, Twitter and Facebook.
And who are some of those? You mentioned Kurzweil. Are there others that you get in your Facebook and Twitter feed?
Yeah, currently I have a lot of Bitcoin, cryptocurrency guys in my feeds, which is really funny because I had them in my feeds for the last 4 years. Those are not well-known names and usually people with big beards and even bigger glasses with strange hobbies. But lately they all fly jets and helicopters to their conferences and buy big houses. And
these are some hints you can't miss, I would say.
Absolutely. My Facebook feed has become crazy in the last 3 months.
Many helicopters and villas.
Exactly.
Popping up.
Exactly.
And looking back in hindsight, you've read so many books and articles and everything. Have there been either blogs, websites, or particular books or magazines that stood out? Would you say in hindsight, there are, let's say, a handful of books or material that everybody should read?
That's difficult. That's a difficult question. I read The Hard Drive of Bill Gates. That certainly influenced me. Peter Thiel, we mentioned before. 0 to 1. The book of the Virgin Branson. Richard Branson was certainly interesting frustrating even when he realized what he did everything already before he was even 40.
And what do you think there is a secret sauce to Richard Branson? Why was he so successful?
I don't think so. Just a good entrepreneur at the right place, and a very winning personality.
Yeah.
Just a good guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Other books that I think are notable right now is Startup Nation from Paul Singer, Technion Nation that came after that, Yuval Harari, Homo Sapiens,
That's
very
an
nice book
excellent
right now.
book. He also has a follow-up, Homo Deus.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I like Homo Sapiens more than Homo Deus.
Yeah, me too, actually. But I have to say, I don't read that many books anymore because I'm so overwhelmed to keep up with my daily lecture. Oh, did I mention TechCrunch? TechCrunch almost read religiously.
Yeah.
Then now there's a lot of home automation blogs that I read. Those are more like private people. I mean, there are not yet very professional blogs. But I think that's an area that will have a lot of things going on in the next 3-4 years.
I think after the conversation, I will try to follow up with you so that you can send me some links and I will add them to the podcast episode so that people can look at them.
Sure.
Another book I would like to add is a book that has been very influential for me or eye-opening has been The Inevitable by Kevin Kelly. Have you heard about that?
Never heard about that.
It's Kevin Kelly is the co-founder of Wired magazine and a very interesting guy. And in this book, The Inevitable, he has described like the 12 dominating forces in technology that will shape the future. And it's a very interesting read. Very, I can highly recommend it.
I will read that.
And maybe if we from those books or materials, from the content that you've been exposed to, is there some that you would also like recommend for every teacher or school to get it into the curriculum? So something that is crucial to our future, our children.
Well, don't get me started with schools. Now that I have children, I start to have a little glimpse into what school life is about here. And I think schools are totally broken. Mm-hmm. They need to be completely reinvented. Mm-hmm. And it will happen super fast. World Economic Forum says the largest company in the next 10 years will be an education company. And I really believe that. So I think, it's going to be 180 degrees different. Kids and anybody who wants to learn will be able to learn at home at his own pace with his own teacher that will be the best teacher in the world. And it will be a video feed that you can stop anytime you need to have a rest or a coffee or whatever, and then continue at in your speed that is perfect for your current abilities. Instead of being in a school where you have to, follow the speed of the school, no matter if you're sick or on holiday or somebody in your family just died. And then 180 degrees different because you're going to do all that at home rather than in school. And then you will go to school to do what you currently do at home, your homework. Mm-hmm. So you go to school to do the applications of what you learned, and then have a teacher help you to do that work, or a community of students that you'll try to solve it together with other people. Mm-hmm. So it will be exactly the opposite of what we do today. And this change is, should be happening yesterday. Yeah. Because every day you learn the way we learn today is a lost day, pretty much. So I can't wait to be part of breaking, but haven't seen not across my table enough startups in this region.
Okay, I would say that is a shout out to everybody who is trying to revolutionize education.
Absolutely.
Just from your personal life, you have now, you said you have kids in school. When there are these evenings where the parents go to school, talk to the teachers, do you give them like advice or your opinion in the sense of, as long as the revolution isn't happening, we can make some incremental change? Or do you say, F word that and just start a revolution right away?
No, of course, that's a lost cause. I mean, we have great, nice teachers, especially around here, that do their very best. But of course, they are in the wrong system, and you can't do incremental changes in this system. That makes no sense at all. You really need to change the system from the bottom up and create new schools, probably from scratch. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been discussing these issues with the guys even at Harvard already. What is that? About 8 years ago, mm-hmm. and there still isn't clear how to solve it. Mm-hmm. Not even for such bright guys like in Harvard.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
It's, what you've described, I would say, one could summarize the education we know from today is based on mass production and making the school kids fit for the industrial age. But now we are in the knowledge, information, creativity age, where we need much more individualization and personalization. Is that like the big shift that is happening?
Yeah, that's one of them. But I mean, the education we have today is trying to get everybody to a certain level, mm-hmm. and that, so especially a certain know-how level. Mm-hmm. So they know, this amount of facts in mathematics, in languages, in whatever field. And the thing is, like Einstein already said, education is not, and that really now becomes true. Education is not anymore about learning facts. It's about learning how to learn.
Yeah.
And this part we need to do a lot more, especially because now facts are worth nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. I mean, you get all the facts in Google within seconds, and you potentially know more than your doctor, lawyer, whatever, if you have a computer with Google and he doesn't, on a specific subject. So you really need to learn skills and not facts.
That's actually one of the major observations of Kevin Kelly in his book, that it's less about delivering answers, but more about finding the right questions to ask, because the answers you will get anyway. Today it might be Google, tomorrow it might be a super intelligence, but there will always be that question that will guide you to whatever you want to know. And you took it to one of the aspects or chapters that I want to talk to you about, which is let's just kickstart this new topic with a question. When you hear the term future-proof, being future-proof, becoming future-proof, what comes to mind?
Okay. I have to think about hairdressers. You always will need hairdressers, no matter how the future looks like. I don't understand the question really, I guess. I don't know what you mean by future-proof.
Sure. I would say one direction I would like to take it towards is that you already said it's not about knowing facts, but learning how to learn. And with what I want to talk about with this term future-proof in mind is nothing is as certain as constant change. And so what we learn today might be useless tomorrow when we just learn superficial knowledge. So we have to dig deeper and get to some like timeless principles that help us adapt and become future-proof in a sense that we become able to adapt to change, which will accelerate with every day that passes. So with that context, Can you think of mindsets, principles that help you navigate the future of constant change?
Yeah, well, I think you have to be open to try everything that's new, and I'm really very amazed about how the kids are using technology today in a way that I can't even if that's my profession. I use a lot of technology wherever I can. My kids at the age of 6 can already operate some technologies better than I can, or come up with different ideas than I would. And I think it's just very important to always let them think out of the box and let them try completely different ways that you would have never thought about.
It kind of changes the idea of being an expert or being a teacher is always the oldest person in the room who has the most experience. But what you are saying is actually those without experience or those new to a subject, they might be equally equipped or even more equipped to show you solutions or to deal with news.
Or maybe their experience is that there can be some totally different solutions that nobody has thought about so far. And that's their experience. And that's why they're willing to try some crazy new stuff. Huh?
They're not afraid to be called like crazy or stupid. They just do.
Absolutely. And they're really, yesterday I drove with my son in my car, and I tried to show him a video on my phone, and there was no sound. And I tried to get the sound up, and it just didn't work. And then my 8-year-old son tells me, yeah, don't try on the phone. You should try to put up the sound on your car, which I first thought was totally stupid. But then I realized my phone had connected by Bluetooth to the car without me noticing it. And it actually was exactly what I needed to do. I just never experienced it before.
That's a perfect example. And so we said openness to different approaches wherever they come from. Is there something else? Learning to learn has been another.
Well, thinking exponentially. That's something that we humans cannot do. There was a famous venture capitalist who shows always the slides of when McKinsey or some other big companies were giving out the numbers on what they thought next year's cell phone market will look like, and next year's cell phone market in the 90s was always like between 7 and 15% more than the year before. So their predictions were always next year we're going to have 10, 12, 7% more cell phones sold than the year before. And the reality was every time they were 100% wrong, because it was 100% more year over year. But then the next year they said again, well, we had 100% last year, but next year it's going to be plus 10%. They could never imagine that it's going to be 100% every year. And that's what we have a big problem with, to imagine. And people cannot imagine that whatever we discovered in medicine in the last 100 years, we're going to discover more and change more in the next 10 years. Yeah. And that's absolutely impossible for, I would say, 90% of the human race to imagine that. Yeah. And it's very, very difficult, even for me, to imagine that. I have to work on it every day to, open my thinking and imagine how it's going to look like in 10 years, or how fast autonomous cars are going to take over cities, and autonomous drones are overtaking deliveries and stuff like this.
So maybe one could say that we always work with assumptions, right? So a takeaway tip could be for this situation, do an exercise like, what if exponential growth would happen, and then just work with those assumptions. What if autonomous cars are in our cities in 2 years already instead of 15, or Is that how do you train yourself?
It's very difficult. I very often have discussions with groups of like in a jury. Lately, I was in a jury for some startups. And then we talked about autonomous cars, and we all agreed that autonomous cars are going to come. One guy said 5 years, the other guy said 10 years. But we all agreed, in the next 10 years, that's going to happen. And then half an hour later, there's a startup that wants to digitalize parking spots. And then I'm looking in the round and say, well, guys, if we have, autonomous cars in 10 years, what do we need parking spots for? And this connection doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen. Then you go back to, this is the business case. This is how the last year's performance or this year's performance is in the next 5 years, how they're going to perform. And then in 7 years, we're going to do an exit. And I say, well, we're not going to do an exit in 7 years, because in 7 years, then it's going to be clear that we are in the autonomous car age, and nobody will need parking spots.
So it's really groundbreaking thinking that you put every assumption into question that we operate with today or on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
And maybe another source for inspiration how to be future-proof. Can you think of like common themes that the entrepreneurs have that you work with, that you invest in? You said the founders are 70% of like why you invest in a project. Do they have similarities that you say make them more likely to be successful in the future?
Well, they have a passion. They're totally motivated by changing the world. They are usually very team friendly. So they have usually long lasting and very good friendships that they also nourish and cherish. And they usually are workaholics. Okay. That's on top of my mind, but of course they are totally different people at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it appears to me that those all are things that you can't actually learn. You can't learn passion. Is there something that people can learn or train to become more fit for the future?
Yeah, I think that's very, very difficult. That's probably something that you see from your parents, maybe when they are passionate about something, or your teacher when they are passionate about something. But I wouldn't know how you can really learn that or teach that, except by example, maybe. But I think everybody has to, find his own passion.
Yeah, sure. And is it you've been active in many different environments, geographically, but also professionally, with surfing and being in Hawaii, being in Israel, Switzerland, the States. Have you noticed environments which are like passion friendlier, or have you discovered like factors that are passion friendlier and factors that
Yeah, of course. I mean, in the Middle East, you see people are much more passionate than they would be, like let's say in Switzerland or in cold countries. I guess it's part of the culture as well, huh? Especially in the hot countries, people are more passionate about things than in the cold countries. I feel, but I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, but a gut feeling is worth a lot, I would say, with your experience.
Maybe, might be. And then, of course, there's also this thing about celebrating successes and the way people look at failures and the way people look at success. Totally different mentalities in the US, in Israel, in Brazil versus in Europe.
Mm-hmm. So how would you summarize the mindset in Europe compared to the other places you just mentioned?
Well, in Europe, it's before you put out your grand visions, you make sure that you can, you have a proof of every fact. So you're going to be people are much more vorsichtig, how do you say that? Much more cautious versus, I would say, Americans would tell their grand visions after 10 minutes after they had the idea, without fact checking if it's possible. And Israelis would they have even a different mentality as well, and especially also are much more, both of them, Israelis and Americans. Israelis are extreme. A good CEO needs to have at least 2 or 3 failures under his belt before he can be a good CEO. Whereas in Europe, it will be the opposite. Somebody that had 3 failures is pretty much done. Will never make it, exactly.
And is there, that's one of these common themes that you hear all over the place, and so often that the way you approach failure is very critical to how you approach business or how you ideate and everything. So, would you have you tips or ideas for yourself how one should approach failure?
Well, I think you should, fail fast. Fail fast. So you should really try to encourage people to go full steam in their ideas. So if it becomes a failure, then they'll find out fast and can go on to the next thing instead of losing 3 years. Maybe they can find out in 3 months.
Yeah. And that would mean that you shouldn't go for the perfect product or the fully fledged product from the start, but more have a experiment and prototype approach to building a business.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I always liked about Facebook. They have on their walls, they have done is better than perfect.
Exactly. Focus on impact.
Exactly.
And hack everything. Yeah. And move fast, break things. It's been one of their first mottos. I think they've now changed it to move fast with stable infrastructure or something like that.
Oh, really?
I don't remember it correctly because it's less catchy than the first one, but they've changed it. They can't afford to crash anymore.
Exactly. Too many people's lives are on this Facebook lifeline nowadays.
Even yours or the 2 of us. I also have a curated Facebook feed, and I'm very happy to have it because it serves me with very interesting information. I've actually just been to Silicon Valley and San Francisco and everything, and I came home with a thought that Americans or Israelis, they might be great to get an idea started, to have great visions, and the Europeans should let them do that and come into play as soon as a product or service has become more mature, when you can start becoming skeptical and analyze and everything. So just that you don't destroy an idea when it's little and yet unproven. Would you say that makes kind of sense, broadly speaking, that Europeans are just too skeptical instead of constructive or visionary?
Yeah, that might be. I don't really know. The problem with that is if we let the Israelis and the Americans do all the Googles and Facebooks and Microsofts of this world, then where are our jobs?
Yeah.
So I really think we urgently need to have some of those wins to keep some jobs in Europe.
Where would you say is Europe or Switzerland well equipped or positioned to make such a big win, or to actually achieve a moonshot, or just get
so I've been trying to talk to the politicians for a while now on the incredible chance that we have with the crypto valley, with all the ICOs, the initial coin offerings, with Ethereum and all these people, Bitcoin and everything that is happening in Switzerland, and we could become the world's know-how center for cryptocurrencies. So that's where I see we have a huge opportunity that we should try to grab.
And you said politicians are one important aspect to get the circumstances right. Is there something else that needs to be done? Or obviously, there's more that needs to be done. But what are like the major milestones to get to that?
So what we need to do is not block it. That's all we need. We need to be very open and not block it. Right now, it's absolutely impossible to open an account if you are a company that deals with Bitcoin. No matter what you do, you can't open a bank account at all. So we should really try to not block it. We don't need any, legislations that pushes it. That would be wrong too. But we just make sure that we don't block it.
And where are the roadblocks? Do they come from the traditional players in the financial industry, or from politics, or both?
Yeah, both. I would say both. Yeah. I mean, banks don't want to listen, and politicians don't want to listen either. So
that's something that I found very interesting. I went to Silicon Valley to see what is there, but then when I came home, I realized it's also as interesting to see what is not there, what you don't notice. And what I mean by that is politics. You don't, when I was there in all these accelerators and everything, not once people complained about, well, the politicians don't help us with promoting anything or with setting the right circumstances. Is that because over there everything is like a great playing field, or is that just another mentality that we in Europe are more keen to look for the politicians or government to fix it, or how?
I really don't know enough about politics in the US or in Israel. I just realized that, especially in Israel, there is the politicians. They really go out of their way to help startups and venture capital industry. And of course, Shimon Peres' son is one of the biggest venture capitalists.
That helps.
In Israel. The mayor of Jerusalem is the ex-CEO, founder of Checkpoint, one of the biggest startups Israel ever had in security. So it looks like the political community and the startup venture capital community do interact a lot more than is the case here. Mm-hmm. Here, it's really very rarely that politicians meet startuppers and the other way around. Mm-hmm. It's getting much better now in the last few years, but it's not the normal way.
Okay, I think we can slowly come to a conclusion. You've spent a lot of time with me for the Sparkr Podcast. I appreciate that a lot. We've talked about many things, covered many topics. Is there maybe a finishing thought or idea that you would like to get out to the listeners?
Well, if there's one thing I could ask for is really, let's make Switzerland the crypto capital of the world.
Excellent. I would say that is a good mission statement, and many people are very eager to make that happen. And where can people find you online?
So online, I do have a website, Gutenberg.ch. You can, connect me on LinkedIn or on Facebook, but I usually will only accept connections if I know somebody. But I think you can always follow my feeds on Facebook, and that's where I usually, spread out the most ideas is on Facebook.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Daniel.
Thank you.
And have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this far-reaching conversation with investor Daniel Gutenberg has been as exciting for you as it has been for me. I had a great time catching up with Daniel and talk about his mindsets and views about the future. Please feel free to check out other episodes of the Sparkr Podcast, where I talk to outstanding people and organizations with the goal to make their insights and wisdom available to us all. You'll find all the episodes on my blog sparkr.ch/blog. That is sparkr.ch/blog. And you can also subscribe on iTunes and always get the latest episodes like the one I've been talking to Timo from Facebook about company culture as the ultimate performance hack, or the one where I talk to Jennifer from Apple about the power of storytelling. And with all of that out of the way, you all have an amazing day, stay sharp and curious, and we'll see each other again on the next Sparkr Podcast episode.